Hey, this is Michael Hensen, and now I'm doing a segment called Music Industry Exposed. And we're going to be talking about music licensing, demystifying some of the things about it, and who you need to trust and who you shouldn't trust, especially with a lot of these internet-based programs going out. And a lot of people are asking for tons of money because they're going to hook you up with the next best thing, which is a spot with your music on Netflix when they can't even guarantee it. So you got to be careful of all of that. But anyway, just stick around in a short minute, drink some tea, and I will be going over that shortly. I am adding some people and some groups, so that's what I'm doing right now. And then right after that, we will get started. If you have any comments or suggestions, I would love to hear from you. Please feel free to comment, say hello, or even play a little song on the side. So I am sharing to a few groups that I think could really help use the help potentially, and I will tell you only what I know. So I am doing that. Okay, I think I've added enough groups here. Here's free music promotion. I won't add to that one. Ha! There we go. Okay, so the topic right now is music licensing and demystifying some of it. So I'm going to start out with cue sheets. Okay, so what is a cue sheet? Well, I've heard of a cue sheet, not exactly sure what that is. So you have a music supervisor, and the music supervisor actually will help organize and put together the cues that go along with a show. So say that show was Seinfeld, and Seinfeld's going to have background music in three places. And then, of course, they have their own production music that they use. So Seinfeld, for an episode of that, you'd have these three pieces or bodies of music that are going to be laid. And the cue sheet talks about the in time, the out time, the duration of the song, how long it's being used, and then the composer or the publisher who's responsible for the music, or the composer or artist, and then the divvy. And I mean divvy is the percentages based on how the share is basically added up. So you could have a 50-50 split with your publisher, where it's a 50% goes to the artist and then 50% to the publisher. But anyway, that's information is embedded in the cue sheet, and the cue sheet shows the number of times too. And I just mean, like, it could be an artist using one piece of music could be used twice or three times within a show if you got lucky, or maybe they're using two pieces of the same artist music, but they're two different pieces of music. That said, that's what's put into a cue sheet, and that's actually something that is really remains on the television, film, and uh, you know, television, film, and movie side. So that said, there's another thing which is called your royalty sheet, and your royalty sheet will also display a set of um, what is the word I'm looking for? A set of information basically that shows the similar usages. So here is a royalty statement I have from ASCAP. Okay, this is what it looks like. Okay, and what you can't see, or if I move it here, these are actually over here are the entries of how many times this song or whatever is used, and this shows right here, or right here shows the actual episode number that it was used in. Okay, and then farther over on this side shows the actual time that the song was used and how much you get paid for it. So right here, I actually have a sheet that shows how I had 4 placements with MTV Cribs and their ins and outs and how much I got paid. So, and at the bottom you can see I made about 450 to 500 bucks. So one of the things I would say that you want to make sure that when you're dealing with these companies or these people who have these programs that they're going to get you signed up for, especially these ones that hook you in with 5 free videos or 2 or 3 free videos. What I had to say recently to one guy was, he approached me and he said, I read what you wrote, and he's like, I was just wondering, like, what were these 2 books that you were mentioning about music licensing, so I don't have to spend $500 on this lady's program or spend $1,000, this $997 that everybody wants to charge for a program. What are these 2 books? And I told him I didn't have 2 specific books. I was just making an example. But if you go on Amazon right now and you type in sync licensing or music licensing, it'll pull up a list of books that you can get, and you could easily go to the library and check out those books for free. Now, in this day and age, everybody wants to utilize YouTube and the video and all the information stuff that we have online, it seems. So that's great and all, but you got to know that there's also people like myself who aren't going to charge people to get advice that they've gotten for free, or even learned and researched and came to the knowledge of, because really that knowledge is general, accessible, free knowledge for everyone. That said, this is a royalty statement. This is not a cue sheet, but it's very similar to a cue sheet in the fact that it has the breakdowns of the usages of the music and what you get paid for. Okay, so when you go and deal with these companies that have these courses, and what you want to ask them is to really know if they're a true music professional and they've actually had placements. Like a lot of them said, I recently saw a guy said he had 100 he's had 100 placements in about a 3-year period. And that could be very realistic if you have been in the music industry for 20 years. But if you haven't been in the industry for 20 years, or you haven't even been in the industry for maybe say 10 years or more, even a person who's been in 10 years, I've been in it 26 years, and I can tell you I've never had 100 placements in a year, 2 years, 3 years, 10 years. Okay, so it's highly unlikely with the number of music avenues out there. Now, I'm not saying that somebody can't solely make a living on licensing music. You can. But one, you shouldn't have to pay somebody $500 to learn all they know, and then them tell you that you're going to be guaranteed to make, a $300,000 salary a year on music licensing. And the truth is, most likely themselves, they can't show you the sheets where they're actually making that kind of money. Now, I have proof, and I'll show you what I've made. So this is just one royalty statement, so you can see. Now, I've crossed out my social security number, but that number right there is $1,250. Okay, so that's a lot of money to make in one sitting, and I just mean in a set of placements. But that wasn't that wasn't like overnight. That definitely wasn't. This was after I owned a studio, recorded several artists. I got instrumental tracks, and I wound up submitting to a company that was actually governed over small amount of artists who were submitting to music supervisors. That same company now has become a music library and is no longer doing personal management of somebody's catalog. Now, if you know of anybody who is doing that, a personal catalog management, I would love to have a comment about it, because I would love to know about those kinds of companies, because that's the kind of company I liked working for and would love working for again. That said, the company that I worked for was a very large music, has become a large music library where they don't have a personal catalog management anymore. So So now you know about cue sheets and you know about a royalty statement and what your royalty statement looks like and breakdown and the potential to make earnings as a music licensing individual or a producer or even an artist. One of the key things you need to know too is when people are looking for placements, they're looking for the music to have a button at the end. And what that means is that it's good to have a segment of music that is more likely to be used. Now, here's the thing. TV shows and like Netflix shows now, they use all kinds of music that's 3.5 minutes long, radio ready music, radio friendly music. They use people's even home studio productions, because sometimes they're looking for this raw, edgy, kind of unproduced sound, because that's what they're looking for. So it is possible, but the truth is most production music has to be of the highest quality, and that would probably be always a 16-bit wave file or greater. It's 24-bit is like more of a standard now, and that's what should be delivered to the actual music supervisor who's going to use the music. So that said, there is also one other thing I saw on a couple forums, and that was about sync fees. So here's how artists get paid. Like when you submit music to be placed in an actual television and film opportunity, they will put your music in a music supervisor if you get lucky and get selected, and that music will play in the show. Okay, so the show, if it just happens to be like a television show, the number of times that over a quarter that the television show airs and your music is in the background is how they base it. So a quarter is a 3-month window of time that can accumulate of several reviews of a show or a play. And here's the same thing with Netflix. It's the same thing. If you have a Netflix show over a 3-month window, how long was Ozark? If your music was an Ozark, how long? Basically, I was trying to say is three months of time of viewing that series is what you'll get paid for a quarter on your royalty statement. So you could, if you have a placement in a series like Ozark or something like that on a Netflix series that people are continually watching, each quarter you're going to get royalties. So for every 3 months, you're going to get an accumulation of royalties paid out to you based on the number of times that episode has been viewed by viewers all across the world or wherever Netflix is available. The same goes with television shows. So that said, you can make a good amount of money if you get in the right show in the right place, and then also if you have a good relationship with a music supervisor and you continue to hold a relationship with them. That's been one of my downfalls, is I didn't have a direct relationship with the actual music supervisor. I was using a company who was managing my catalog. So since I didn't have the direct relationship, the only way I could do follow-up is to find out what music supervisor actually placed my music, and then go back to them and say, hey, you remember when you were dealing with Manifest Media? Well, I'm the actual one of the guys that was working with them at the time, but they're no longer doing personal catalog management, but I would like to actually submit you more music again. And so you could reach out via email to that music supervisor, and you've already eliminated one of the hurdles, and that is knowing what kind of music that supervisor actually likes or is looking for. So sometimes, with a show like MTV Cribs, they were looking for urban-based tracks that didn't really have too much vocals or any kind of hook parts. So that said, the instrumental hip-hop music was working really good and was something that they were looking at for several shows. And still today, places like True TV and several other places actually are looking for the same kind of music. So there is a variety of like avenues for instrumental hip-hop music or urban-based music. That said, there's also a number for instrumental modern rock and even stuff like acoustic and ukulele music. I've been hearing in television commercials a lot more lately that a lot of people are using ukulele music, which is great because that's exactly some of the stuff I've been producing for the last 6 years, 7 years. So that said, the sync fee is something that wasn't mentioned, and that's the other way you make money. And that fee is actually the fee that either an organization gets or yourself would get. Now I say that is there, you might have a publisher, and that publisher can actually acquire some of that money. You can be yourself directly in contact with a music supervisor, and you can make that money yourself. Or you might have a company that doesn't even allow you to have part of the sync fee, and they're not talking about it. So the sync fee is the actual upfront money that is available for that placement. So here's an example. You have a show like Jerry Seinfeld or the Seinfeld show, and I'm using an old show, of course, but they need specifically for one of their episodes, they want a rock band because they're having an episode where they're walking through the park and there's a rock band playing. So they need a good rock band track for that. So they will actually put out, or a music supervisor might post somewhere, hey, I'm looking for a upbeat, independent, modern rock track, and it's going to be used for about 30 seconds to a minute. And we are going to actually give you a sync fee or an upfront fee of $1,500 for the use of that music. Sometimes it'll be $500, sometimes it'll be $200, but sometimes they offer an upfront fee. Now that is not the same money that you get for the actual airing of the show, because when the show airs, you're actually getting royalty money, and that royalty money is based on the number of plays over a quarter, and that quarter is a 90-day period window when that episode is airing. And the reason why it is like that is because you have, Eastern, Pacific, Central, and Mountain times, and you have episodes that are occurring, at different time periods. And, sometimes you have reruns and all kinds of other things. So based on that is the reason why there's a larger window for you to actually make more money on the royalties end. And the royalties end is basically the back end, what they call the back end of music production music payments. Okay, so that said, the sync fee is that upfront money. The royalties are the back end money that you get, and those are really the two money offerings that you can get with music licensing. So the one other thing I was going to talk about is a 50-50 deal, and 50-50 deal is when the music publisher will offer you 50% of the royalties, and you're taking 50% of the royalties for placements. And so if you get with a good music publisher, they can also manage your catalog, and they can get you placements for film, television, and movies. So that said, I appreciate your time. I hope this clears it up. And just to let you know, make sure that when you see these internet companies that are actually out there trying to get you to sign up for, hey, we're a music licensing organization, or we have our, 5 videos that we're going to give you for free, but then you got to sign up for our program at the end of the 5th video or 3rd video or whatever it is, and you sign up. Just know that doesn't guarantee that you're going to actually start getting placements. And not only that, but that money invested, you might do better off to get a person to teach you personally. I mean, if somebody came to me and wanted to know about music licensing and wanted to pay me $50 to have a sit-down meeting or something like that, I think I could inform them and tell them everything that they need to know, versus actually going to, and I'm not trying to say it's not a good route, but to pay $1,000 for one of these courses and not have any guarantees, they're not even going to show you where you need to look for music libraries. They're not going to show you where music supervisor listings are. They're not going to talk about like TuneFind and IMDb and how to get music supervisor information, and then how to even approach them, and how to know which music supervisor to go to based on the genres that they deal with. And I just mean it's not always that specific, but sometimes it is. You know, sometimes a music license, sometimes music supervisors only deal with alternative and modern rock music, and some of them only deal with urban and hip hop music, you know, depending upon the shows that they're placing music for. But if you're like a, you know, you're doing music for a commercial, for commercials, or even television shows like stuff you'd see on True TV or HGTV, some of those are only strictly instrumental. They're only looking for instrumental tracks, and they're only looking for urban instrumental tracks for some of those. Some of them, they're looking for acoustic instrumental tracks. So these are the kinds of things that one of these courses may teach you, but they're not guaranteeing you anything. And here's another thing to ask them at the end of your course. Am I going to maintain a list of music supervisors that you've actually dealt with and gotten placements from? So if they can provide you with that kind of information, that would be super valuable. And I could see somebody paying $500 for that, but still that information is really public and is not something that's really for resale. And it's information that you can usually get on your own if you do the research. That said, thank you very much for checking this out. I really appreciate it. Hope that clears up some of the music licensing stuff. And if there's anything that you would like to see regarding some of the music licensing information or related to, I even put a little poll up here, I think, and it just asked about questions about what kind of video you would like to see next. I was going to go over a music marketing press kit, what an artist might need in a press kit or in a PDF, like if you're sending just a solo PDF file as a press kit, or if you want a video press kit, what might go into the video press kit. I have information on all that, or stuff like music business cards and what you should include on it. I'm willing to also do other topics as well. I think one of the other things I had brought up was some recording and production techniques. So anyway, that said, if you leave me some feedback, I would love to know. Thank you very much for checking this video out. This is the Music Industry Exposed with Michael Hensen. Appreciate your time.